The woman was just about to get into the approaching taxi when the next second her backpack was suddenly yanked away by a thief behind her. She chased after him with all her strength, but lacking stamina, she could only watch as the thief ran farther and farther away. Just as she was about to lose hope in despair, she turned her head and saw a man riding a white horse rushing toward her from the distance. Before Kate could even react, the man reached out his arm and swiftly pulled her onto the horse. She had barely settled in when the sound of hooves thundered through the wind, and the man spurred the horse straight after the thief, while Kate clung to his back in shock. With his skillful riding, it didn't take long before the man forced the thief into a dead-end alley. Intimidated by the man's sharp presence, the thief had no choice but to flee in panic. And in that moment, Kate's heartstrings were quietly stirred by the man's decisiveness and composure. But what Kate didn't expect was that this very man had been wandering a lavish banquet of the 19th century just the day before. Leopold was a distant relative of the British royal family, a true noble duke, not only born into high status but also a brilliant gentleman. Highly educated, he was even the inventor of the modern elevator. Wherever Leopold went, he would always draw the attention of countless society ladies. Yet, despite his lineage, he couldn't escape the pressure from his elders urging him to marry. After the death of his parents, Leopold inherited the title of Duke, but also a mountain of family debt. To rebuild the family's standing, his uncle Millard organized a lavish ball, hoping Leopold would announce his marriage to the wealthiest heiress present. But such a view of marriage clashed with Leopold's beliefs, for he felt that a union without love was nothing but an empty illusion. He even scoffed at the so-called honor of his ducal title. Leopold firmly believed that the nobility of a new era lay not in bloodlines, but in scientists and inventors who illuminated the world with their intellect. Yet his words only angered his uncle, who gave him a final ultimatum.
As of tonight, I wash my hands of you.
Though unwilling, Leopold still obeyed and arrived at the banquet. He then took the hand of the wealthy heiress and slowly stepped into the center of the ballroom. But just as it seemed the night was reaching its end, Leopold noticed a suspicious figure lurking nearby. The man's attire was odd, his behavior suspicious, leaving Leopold confused. He followed the man into a side hall and unexpectedly found him secretly studying his elevator design. Leopold politely asked who he was, but the man, panicked, fled without answering. And as the two descended the stairs, they brushed past a strange woman. Leopold pursued the man outside, chasing him under the moonlight until they reached the unfinished Brooklyn Bridge. The man climbed a ladder to the top, and Leopold chased after him, but when the man reached the peak, he prepared to leap off. Believing the man was about to take his life, Leopold rushed forward without hesitation and grabbed him, but the wooden planks were slippery, and both of them fell from the bridge together. When Leopold awoke again, he was astonished to find himself unharmed, lying in an unfamiliar place. As he tried to get up, he accidentally pressed the button on a TV remote. Staring at this strange device, Leopold leaned closer, only to press another switch that turned on the stereo. The sudden noise left him completely bewildered, and at that moment Stuart in the next room woke from his sleep and hurried to calm him down. Never having seen such things before, Leopold believed he had been kidnapped. Stuart hurriedly explained that he was Leopold's great-grandson, devoted to studying time rifts, and that the Brooklyn Bridge where they had fallen was the key that connected the two eras. He speculated that the rift would reopen next week, and Leopold had to return to his own time, or this unexpected journey would cause unimaginable consequences. Stuart confessed he had traveled back in time only to meet his ancestor, the father of the modern elevator. But to Leopold, these wild words were hard to accept. Just then it was time to walk the dog, so Stuart had to leave, reminding Leopold not to go out. Yet as Stuart stepped into the elevator, he fell into the shaft. It turned out that Leopold's time travel had caused all elevators to malfunction. Meanwhile, Leopold began studying all sorts of modern objects in Stuart's room, and the more he explored, the more he believed he had truly traveled through time. Suddenly, a woman broke into the apartment, and despite Leopold's attempts to stop her, she explained she only wanted to retrieve some documents left behind. But as Leopold looked at her back, a strange sense of familiarity stirred within him.
I must confess, I feel as though we've met on a previous occasion.
Well, Lionel, seeing as I've never met a single friend of Stuart's, I'm not even sure he's ever had any.
Soon after, Kate left, But moments later, she returned again because Stuart's dog had left a mess outside. She scolded Leopold for leaving the dog unattended, handed him the leash, and signaled for him to take it out. On this foreign land, Leopold looked up at the towering skyscrapers, while the roar of cars filled his ears, leaving him utterly astonished. His unusual attire also drew curious stares from passers-by. Then, guided by the dog, Leopold experienced crossing the busy street. Fortunately, no serious accident occurred, but the dog chose that very moment to relieve itself, just as Leopold was about to leave.
Pick it up and put it in the trash.
Absolutely not.
It's against the law to leave it there.
I refuse, respectfully.
All right. What's your name, Fancy Pants?
Leopold, Alexis, Elijah, Walker, Thomas, Gareth, Mountbatten.
Seeing this, the policewoman immediately pulled out the note Stuart had left in Leopold's pocket. Later, the dog led Leopold to the completed Brooklyn Bridge. Standing before the towering bridge that rose into the clouds, he felt as if he were standing at the crossroads of time, filled with both awe and wonder. At the same time, the severely injured Stuart was sent to the hospital, and when Kate heard the news, she came to see him. But Stuart had already lost the ability to move, so he told Kate everything from beginning to end, hoping she could take care of his great-grandfather who had come from the 19th century in his place. Yet to Kate, Stuart's unbelievable words sounded like nonsense, so she directly sent him to a mental hospital. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Leopold unexpectedly discovered a neighbor's child had snuck inside. The child told Leopold that every weekend he would come here to watch TV with Stuart. At that moment, Kate's brother Charlie also returned home. Attracted by the strange sounds upstairs, he followed the stairs to Stuart's place, only to see Leopold passionately performing a play for the little boy. As an actor himself, Charlie felt an instant bond with Leopold, and that very evening he invited him over for dinner. At the dinner table, Leopold skillfully cut the food into small pieces and gracefully placed them into his mouth. Even his chewing carried an air of refinement. Kate couldn't help but stare, mesmerized by his complicated and elegant dining manners. Then, Leopold politely asked when the next course would be served, while Kate playfully replied that there was no next course.
Where I come from, the meal is the result of reflection and study. Menus are prepared in advance, timed to perfection. It is said without the culinary arts, the crudeness of reality would be unbearable.
When dinner ended, Kate got up to clear the table, but to her surprise, Leopold stood up with her.
Why are you standing?
I'm accustomed to stand when a lady leaves the table.
This old-fashioned courtesy left Kate shocked, for in this fast-paced age, such formal rituals had long disappeared, yet behind her surprise, she caught a glimpse of his true gentlemanly charm. The next morning, Leopold tried to make breakfast with the toaster, but soon filled the place with smoke. Luckily, Kate arrived just in time to prevent disaster. Leopold angrily complained that the toaster's inventor clearly hadn't considered the user's experience because he had followed the instructions exactly. Yet, every time the bread was burnt. Kate, however, wasn't bothered at all, explaining that most people understood toast required being checked and reheated, usually twice.
From a pleasant slumber to the scent of a warm brioche smothered in marmalade and fresh creamery butter, you will understand that life is not solely comprised of tasks, but tastes.
Leopold's strong opinions on food unexpectedly impressed Kate. Working at an advertising company, she had recently been given the task of shooting a butter commercial. After auditioning countless actors, she still hadn't found the right person. Clearly, Leopold was the best candidate she could hope for, so without hesitation, she brought him to her company. But when he walked in, not a single employee held high expectations for this man who claimed to be a duke. The assistant even mocked Kate, saying she was wasting everyone's time. But as soon as Leopold stood in front of the camera and recited the lines with focus and sincerity, his natural, noble aura immediately captivated everyone present. Even her skeptical boss Camden finalized him as the spokesperson on the spot, and even invited Kate to dinner afterward. On her way home, Kate couldn't help but daydream about her upcoming promotion and raise, her joy so overwhelming she danced with excitement. Her lively and exuberant spirit, rare in the 19th century, also caught Leopold's attention. With deep concern, he reminded Kate that Camden's intentions were obvious and she should bring another woman along. But Kate brushed it off, hailing a taxi to head home. Suddenly, a thief appeared and snatched her handbag. Kate chased for a long time but couldn't catch up. Just as she was about to give up, the sound of rapid hooves echoed behind her. As Kate slowly turned her head, she saw Leopold at that moment rushing toward her like a prince. With irresistible determination and romance, he staged the perfect rescue. On the way back, Kate's heart was still lost in that dreamy sunset moment, and she began to accept that Leopold might truly be a duke from the 19th century. As night fell, Kate went to the restaurant where Camden had made a reservation. At the same time, Charlie brought Leopold to a friend's gathering. There, Charlie's crush Patrice was present, but his lack of expression made the atmosphere awkward. Leopold stepped in to help, telling amusing stories about the underground gallery of the Louvre, instantly sparking Patrice's interest and lifting the mood. Walking home, Charlie was frustrated, blaming Leopold for turning the party into a Louvre tour, which left him without Patrice's contact.
I believe this is her number. Women respond to sincerity. Now that number rings her.
What did you say?
Merely that you admired her, but you were hesitant to make an overture since you'd been told she was courting another.
That's good!
Only then did Charlie wake up as if from a dream, realizing how foolish he had just been. And in their conversation, Charlie accidentally noticed Leopold's feelings for his sister, so he immediately urged Leopold to hurry to the restaurant where Kate was at that moment. Meanwhile, Kate was already disappointed by Camden. The dinner was nearly over, yet he hadn't mentioned anything about her promotion or raise, instead trying to pursue her romantically, which Kate found distasteful. Still, out of courtesy, she held back from confronting him directly. At that moment, Charlie and Leopold arrived, and Camden politely invited them to join. During the meal, Camden boasted about his purchase of an 18th century apartment. As he described it, Leopold quickly realized Camden was talking about his own home. Without hesitation, he corrected Camden, stating it was built in the late 19th century. To ease the embarrassment, Camden shifted to discussing opera.
Bohème, la bohème.
You speak French?
Fluently.
Entouré par la lumière de la lune. How sweet your face looks, gently encircled by the soft moonlight. From the opening scene of Bohème, a stunning duet.
But Leopold's sharp and calm rebuttals left him speechless. Leopold then directly exposed Camden's unprofessional behavior of using his position to pursue subordinates, calling it highly inappropriate. With that, Leopold rose and left. The atmosphere at the table instantly froze, leaving Kate with an unmistakable look of embarrassment. The dinner ended on an unpleasant note. Kate felt disheartened, knowing her relationship with her boss might now be ruined. Leopold, too, realized his words had been too harsh, his face showing both regret and apology. To apologize to Kate, he crafted a quill and, by the light of a candle, wrote down the apology hidden in his heart. The next morning, Charlie placed the letter on the dining table. When Kate awoke, he suggested she have some fruit, but she refused, saying she only wanted to head to work. So Charlie slipped the letter into her bag under the excuse of giving her fruit. Later at the office meeting, Kate accidentally noticed the letter among her files.
I behaved as an imbecile last night, animated in part by drink, in part by your beauty, and in part by my own foolish pride. And for that I am profoundly sorry. Please accept, as a gesture of apology, a private dinner on the rooftop tonight at 8 o'clock.
Leopold's sincere words made her heart skip a beat. And just as she was about to leave work, she unexpectedly found that her assistant had already drafted a reply on her behalf.
Okay, I don't know what this guy did to piss you off, but that is the best apology letter in the history of mankind. Just sign it, Kate. It's 4:30, we'll fax it.
Soon after, Leopold received the reply at home. At the same time, Charlie was on the phone with Patrice. Though still tongue-tied with the help of the draft Leopold had prepared for him, he slowly set aside his nervousness and began to speak from the heart.
The bottom line is, I like you.
What about 7?
7? 7 would be, heaven. Okay. See you then. It worked!
As night fell, Kate arrived dressed elegantly, lighting up the dim evening, while Leopold was already waiting amidst the glow. The romantic scene he had prepared was like a painting, every detail showing his thoughtfulness, as gentle music floated in the night air like a tender melody. Beneath the moonlight, they opened their hearts to one another, revealing the love that had quietly bloomed between them. When emotions ran deep, Leopold invited Kate to dance, and in the soft glow of candlelight they swayed gracefully, their steps gentle and intertwined. Together, they spent a night filled with warmth and romance. The next morning, Leopold carefully prepared a delicious breakfast, his considerate care leaving Kate touched and surprised. Afterward, they began a cozy day of dating. It was then that Leopold suddenly spotted a building all too familiar to him. It was the very mansion he had lived in during the 19th century, still bearing portraits of himself and his parents. He led Kate to a secret corner, opening a hidden compartment only he knew of, retrieving a tin box filled with treasured keepsakes, including the wedding ring left to him by his mother. As the sun set, they arrived at the Brooklyn Bridge. Looking at the vast structure that stretched toward the horizon, Kate opened her heart, admitting she had never left this land, then asked if Leopold missed his old home.
I miss its rhythm.
It was slower,
Quite a bit slower.
like today.
Beneath the glow of neon lights, they leaned against each other on the balcony sofa. The night was gentle, the stars faint, and Leopold's fingers hesitated over the ring in his pocket. But after long thought, he chose silence. For once the rift reopened, he would have to leave. He did not wish to give a promise that would only bring sorrow to Kate later. Although their encounter was like a fairy tale, time was the pain they could never overcome. The next morning, Leopold came to Kate's company for the official butter commercial shoot. He was eager, believing the product must be a rare delicacy, but after one small bite, he found the taste bitter and unappealing. He immediately argued with the staff, insisting it was deceiving the public. Kate rushed after him, urging him to return and finish the job, but he challenged her, asking if she herself had ever tasted it.
It's diet. It's supposed to be awful. I mean, what is the problem?
Leopold, frustrated, declared that he was promoting something of poor quality to unsuspecting people. Yet as someone raised as a duke, he could not truly grasp the hardships ordinary people like Kate endured just to survive. They quarreled fiercely because of this, and in the end parted on bad terms. What should have been a tender night was instead shrouded in heavy emotion, as if everything they had shared was a fleeting illusion. The next morning, Stuart sat troubled in the mental hospital. It was Monday, the day the rift would open again. Yet, he had no way to get out.
Just a guy who saw a crack in a chair that no one else could see. I'm that dog who saw a rainbow. None of the other dogs believe me.
I believe you.
The nurse felt great sympathy for Stuart's situation and soon seized the chance to help him leave the place. Back home, he saw the apology letter Leopold had written to Kate. Every word, full of restraint and sincerity, quietly revealed the feelings that had grown between them. But now, the rift had opened, and to protect the order of time, Stuart was determined to send Leopold back where he belonged. Leopold and Kate's encounter seemed like just a fleeting meeting, but fate is always filled with uncertainty. While Stuart was organizing the photos he had taken during his time travel, he accidentally spotted Kate in the crowd. This indicated that their meeting was already a predetermined fact, and Kate would eventually return to that time. Yet Kate did not know Leopold had already left. Meanwhile, Camden decided to move to England, leaving the New York branch under Kate's control, with plans to announce her promotion that evening. Overjoyed, Kate called and left a message for Leopold but received no response. Soon, Stuart and Charlie rushed toward the promotion banquet with the photographs. The banquet was held in the very mansion once belonging to Leopold. Kate wandered into his bedroom, gazing long into the tall mirror. At the same time, Leopold was lost in thought and resigned himself to following his uncle's decision. Just before Kate was to step on stage, Stuart found her and handed her the photos, urging her to return to the past. Their words confused her, but
How?
You have to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge within the next 23 minutes.
pressed for time, she ignored them and walked to the podium. Just as she was about to eloquently share the hardships she had endured, Kate accidentally noticed the 19th century photos, which clearly showed Leopold and herself in formal attire that very night. At that moment, she finally understood fate's design.
It's a great thing to get what you want. You couldn't imagine, or you didn't think it was possible. Exactly what you wanted without asking. They just knew, like they could hear your heart beating or listen to your thoughts. And you hesitated. And I have to go.
Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, Kate gave up the career she had pursued all her life. Together they went to the Brooklyn Bridge. Though afraid, she stepped forward with determination.
Charlie! I'll love you forever.
Love you.
After bidding farewell to her brother, Kate crossed the rift and returned to the 19th century. At that same moment, Leopold was about to announce his marriage to the wealthy heiress, but Kate arrived just in time.
Kate McKay.
The guests were shocked by her sudden appearance, but only Leopold's gaze remained firm as he slowly walked toward Kate.
I love you.
I love you.
They say, true love is not about chasing and running, but about two souls finding each other in the river of time. Leopold, once bound by his family's expectations, learned what it meant to choose and to take responsibility. Kate, once a woman fighting only for her career, rediscovered her true self in the warmth of his steady gaze. Perhaps we too have felt trapped by reality, pressed down by the weight of our era. But with love, we find the courage to cross time, to break free of fate, and to run toward the one who is meant for us. Even if separated by 100 years, love can still bloom brilliantly in the cracks of destiny. May we all find the one who is willing to leap from the bridge for us, and in love, see a braver and more complete version of ourselves.